very rarely do we go ahead and look at the full picture. Very rarely do we see how he might be compromising himself to go ahead and meet the needs of the family. How has he compromised his identity to go ahead and meet the needs of our family? Hi, I'm Veronica Cisneros, licensed marriage and family therapist, entrepreneur, and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. I was 1 month away from divorce. The court papers were filed. We had just had our first daughter, and I felt more alone than ever. My husband told me he was tired of competing with my career. I was overwhelmed, disconnected from my family, and questioning everything I had built. I didn't want to lose my marriage, but I also didn't want to keep losing myself. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I stopped pointing fingers and started doing the work on me. Now, after 25 plus years of marriage, raising 3 daughters, and running a thriving therapy practice, I'm here to help you do the same. This podcast is for the woman who looks like she has it all together, but secretly feels like she's falling apart. We're talking real marriage struggles, parenting teens, rebuilding trust, reclaiming identity, and finally feeling like you again. Pull up a seat. You don't have to figure it out alone. This is Empowered and Unapologetic. I'm totally about to share something I'm not necessarily proud of. However, I trust you guys. So for the longest time, I carried a great amount of resentment towards Willie. And the reason why was because, he was in the military. He got to be surrounded by his friends. He got to be surrounded by his brothers. He got to go on all these cool trainings. He got to go away for 7 months, Okinawa, Afghanistan, Iraq, without any kids. Like a complete vacation, right? Complete vacation. Well, what I didn't realize was I was carrying resentment because he got to be away. He got to take a break. He had some form of serenity. Meanwhile, here I am with the kids. I was doing a whole hell of a lot. I was in my internship. I was in grad school. I was a single mom. And I know whenever I say that, Willie always gets mad. But it's true. That's what I felt like. I felt like the single mother. And then we had Skype back then, and it wasn't Zoom. I don't think Zoom was invented. But yeah, we would be on Skype. We would be on calls. And I remember, and this is where I'm so ashamed to say this, but I remember there was this one time when I had said to him, gosh, I would do anything to change places with you. Like anything at all. And I remember him looking at me and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. There's no way that I would allow that. And I was like, no, I really do know what I'm talking about. Like, you get to be away. There's no kids, like, constantly around you. You get a little bit of a break. And I remember him looking at me. And he didn't cry, but I remember there was this great deal of pain in his eyes. And he just looked at me and it was kind of like with confusion, And he was trying to portray how he was trying to say it without saying it. It was just kind of like this look like, Veronica, no, there's no way. And I look at it now and I'm like, what a selfish thing to say. What an absolutely selfish thing to say. Like, would you really trade places with him just so you could have some form of solace? And at the time, hell yeah, I just needed a break. There was so much going on. I felt like everything was on my shoulders. All of the weight was on my shoulders. One thing I failed to do was realize how much weight was on his. He was being shot at. Every single day while he was away, he was scared and he was not sure whether or not he was going to come back home. I didn't take any of that into consideration. My entire vision was focused on what was going on for me and how life was passing me by and how I was completely flooded and overwhelmed with emotions, frustrations, and this feeling of being overwhelmed. I never really stopped and thought about what it was like for him. And it wasn't until he and I started to have conversations and he started to open up about Afghanistan and some of the things that he endured. And it was then that I remember going back to that conversation we had on the phone when he was away, and I realized, what an idiot. Your partner is out there defending our country, being shot at, bombed at. This is the last place he wants to be. He's living in fear every single day. He's completely hypervigilant every single day. He's not getting sleep. He's not eating well. And he is watching his life, his family, the ones that he loves the most. He's watching them through a small screen and praying that the internet doesn't disconnect. And I started using this exercise. As a matter of fact, I started sharing the story with some of my clients. And I share it along the lines of resentment and how us women carry resentment. And we carry resentment because it's like all of the things that we're doing for our family and how we're trying to create this perfect space for them. We give up everything. We give up damn near our identity to go ahead and create this perfect space for our family, for our kids, right? And we don't know who we are outside of all of the roles we play because of all of the things we do. We compromise ourselves over and over. We compromise ourselves emotionally. We compromise ourselves mentally. We literally exhaust ourselves, right? And after working with several men, hundreds of men, and working with couples, one thing I started to realize was, wait a minute, how are men doing the same thing? And I'm not going to lie, once I started working with men, I was like, damn, dude, women are bitches. We're so mean. We are so mean. And don't get me wrong, I'm not siding with the men at all, but damn what we put these men through. And it made me think about my own personal story. That one event, that one time where I had foolishly asked my husband, or I had mentioned to my husband that I wanted to trade places with him, and him being in a war zone. And not at all, not being at all in this place where I can put myself in his shoes, because I was so hyper-focused on mine. And I started thinking about all of the men that I've worked with. One thing that they have in common is they have also lost themselves in the role of being a father and a husband. They do it in a different way. Hear me out, ladies. Men will work very, very long hours, will harm their bodies in different ways, will put their bodies through excruciating pain just so they can provide for their family. They will go ahead and see their family through a screen, on Zoom, on Skype, or FaceTime, while their wife gets to be home and enjoy that time with her kids because somebody's enjoying that time. They will ignore their body signals. They will ignore those aches and pains they feel first thing in the morning because they have a job to do. They have income to bring in. They will ignore the times when their body's saying enough, and they will push straight through it. I work with a lot of firefighters, a lot of first responders, and men that serve our country, that are in the military. I also work with a whole lot of high-level executives and business owners. And regardless of whether or not they're a first responder or an executive, their purpose is all the same: be a great provider for our family. After talking to a bunch of men, one thing became very, very apparent. Most men are under the impression that they have to be invited to join us. They have worked such long hours away from their family. They have watched their kids grow. They've watched their kids grow through a screen. They've missed out on several opportunities and several school functions just so they can provide the perfect life for their family. And they will do this without complaining. And as I started to talk to these men, they started saying the same thing. I feel like a guest in my own home. I feel like I have to be invited to play with my kids. I don't feel supported as a father. I feel like no matter what I do, no matter what I say, it's never enough. And she's going to do it anyway. So why even bother? When I come home, all I want to do is be with my family. I work my ass off, but yet I don't feel welcomed. I am immediately met with anger. I am immediately met with frustrations. I'm not met with love. So it would be just better off. I would totally be just better off if I went back to work. At least there, they validate me. At least there, I'm provided with some level of support. And the amount of hours and the things that I do to my body are proven to be of worth by a paycheck. Another thing that most men will talk about in therapy, when I ask them, what is it like in the mornings? That's the worst. I used to be able to pop out of bed, but now I can't. I have to roll out of bed. And I used to be able to pull weeds. I used to be able to do certain things around the house. But I'm going to tell you what, I could only do it for a certain amount of time. And after that, my body's done. When asked, why is that different? Why is that different from you being a first responder to you being home, and doing household chores? They immediately look at me and say, I don't know. I don't know. I can help them with that. And usually I do. And my reply is, at work, you are 100% distracted. The minute a call goes off or there's an emergency, you have to go. You have very, very little time to look or think about what's happening with your body. You have very little time. There's constant distractions. At home, you are at peace. Well, as peaceful it could be if you really pissed off your wife, but at home, you are in your safe place. There's not a lot of distractions. There's not a lot going on. So you are very much more in tune with your body than you are as a first responder. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. And I'll watch them here in my private practice on the couch, and they struggle to sit down for a long periods of time. The clinical hour is 50 minutes, and I'm going to tell you what, they're moving around, trying to adjust themselves so that their back doesn't hurt so much. Another thing that they have mentioned to me is how bad their knees are and how when they get up, kind of sounds like snap, crackle, pop. And I remember my husband would do this exercise. Oh my gosh, it would bother me so much. I literally wish you guys could see me. But it's like, so he's standing up right before he does his workout, and he kind of like squats a little bit, and he puts his hands on his knees, and then he goes around in a circular motion. He's not twerking, ladies. Don't go there. Dirty minds. Don't go there. But he's literally like moving his body in this circular motion. And I remember looking at him and watching him do this. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Stop that. That is like so not attractive. And Willie's reply would be, I'm warming up my knees. I have to warm them up before I start working out. And it's like, well, do that somewhere else. And he's like, no, I have to warm them up. I sound like such a bitch. Oh my God. Anyway, and so there he is doing the circular motion, kind of looking like he's twerking, but not really. But he's like not twirling. He's like moving his knees in this circular motion, right? Hands on his knees, squat position, moving. And then he tells me, Veronica, listen to my knee. Listen to both of my knees. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And he's like, just listen. And sure enough, he bends and extends his leg out. And it sounds like snap, crackle, pop. He says, it sounds like Rice Krispie treats, doesn't it? When you squish them. And it's like, yeah, babe, it does sound like that. And I look at my husband and I think about all of the things he's done, all of the sacrifices he's made. And it's not that I discount mine, not at all. But I realize, damn, men do have it hard. And it's not a measuring game, ladies. I get you do a lot. And so does he. He just does it a different way. And it might not look the way you want it to look, with cleaning the dishes, helping out with kids. But he does it in his own way. And it's so important that we acknowledge that. Because I think what we tend to do is we tend to allow resentment to build. And as that resentment builds, we start to position our partner as the enemy. We hold on to the anger. Very rarely do we go ahead and look at the full picture. Very rarely do we see how he might be compromising himself to go ahead and meet the needs of the family. How has he compromised his identity to go ahead and meet the needs of our family? How is he showing up? Nothing breaks my heart more than watching women pour into everyone else and feel like they've completely lost themselves in the process. That's why I have founded Outside the Norm Counseling, because therapy shouldn't feel like one more thing on your to-do list. It should feel like relief. I'm Veronica Cisneros, licensed marriage and family therapist and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. And I know what it's like to look around at your life and think, why does everything feel fine, but feel so off? At Outside the Norm Counseling, we help women who are high functioning on the outside, but silently falling apart inside. Women who are waking up overwhelmed, snapping at the people they love, and carrying guilt that never seems to lift. And if you're not ready for therapy, that's okay. Let's start small. With my self-paced course, Reignite Your Marriage and Reclaim Your Identity. This is for you, not your husband. Because when you reconnect with yourself, everything else begins to shift. Head to OutsideTheNormCounseling.com to start. Remember, you don't have to keep holding it all together. You just have to take the first step. Ladies, I'm here to tell you you're not alone. Resentment is something everybody struggles with, right? But when you get to this place where it's hard to work through resentment and it's hard for you to regain values after constant arguing and you just can't see eye to eye and you're in this space where you're constantly arguing and you're constantly measuring what each other do, that, my friend, is what we call resentment. And I want you to think about the examples I gave you. And I want you to go ahead and stop. And your first step is going to be to identify how he as well is doing the work. Again, it's not the same as yours. I see that. I hear you. It's not the same as yours. But how might he be showing up the same way you are? How is he also putting in for the family? How is he also compromising himself to meet the family's needs? Write that down. Write that down. Another thing I want you to do is I want you to think about, like, okay, so once you've been able to identify how he might be compromising himself, his body, to go ahead and meet the family's needs, I want you to provide him with some level of intimacy. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. I meant to say, I want you to provide him with empathy. No, I'm not trying to tell you got to reward him with sex. Gosh, was that like totally a float of... I can't believe I said that. Reward him with intimacy. No, not yet. Not just yet. But I want you to be able to go ahead and identify, how can you empathize with him? How are you both in the same battle? How are you both trying to go ahead and stay afloat and doing everything you can do, compromising yourself for the family? How can you empathize with him? Try to put yourself in your spouse's shoes. Recognize that they're not the enemy. Maybe, just maybe, they may have good intentions. Another thing I want you to do is I want you to be honest with yourself. How are you positioning your partner as the enemy? How might your own past interrupt your ability to see your partner for who he is? You know, our past experiences set us up to protect ourselves, but they also affect the way we see things. You may think of your husband as this inconsiderate asshole. He's completely selfish, right? And he only does whatever he wants for himself. He only looks out for himself. Very rarely does he look out for the family. That's a lie. And you are blinded by your past. So force yourself, challenge yourself to dig deeper. Why are you holding this anger? Why are you holding this resentment? Are you afraid of something? How might your past be showing up? Another thing I want you to think of is, why is there constant arguing? Why is it that you guys are at the state where you cannot have an effective or unhealthy conversation? Are you both on the defense? Are you both attempting to communicate something with one another? Well, you know what? Just like you compromise yourself, I compromise myself too. I don't complain about it. I don't say shit. I just roll out of bed, stretch, and then I go to work at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm there for 12 hours, 80 hours, 24 hours, whatever the hell it is, right? I know I exaggerated with the 80, but just hear me out. And I do all of these things for you, but I don't complain. I don't tell you about the headaches I have. I don't tell you about the constant pounding. I don't tell you that I actually want to go to sleep right now. I've been wanting to go to sleep for a while. I don't say any of that. I don't complain. I don't complain. And I don't go to the doctors. You want to know why? You want to know why I don't go to the doctors? I don't go to the doctors because I don't want them to find something wrong. And I don't want them to put me on medical leave. Because if they put me on medical leave, then that means no work, which means no money. And then I have to worry about probably getting a desk job. Or even worse, it screws me with promotion. You have no clue what I put myself through to meet the needs and the demands of the family. You have no clue what I put myself through so you can be a stay-at-home mom. You have no clue what I put myself through so that our kids can have a better life than I did. Mamas, I want you to open your eyes. I get you're overwhelmed. I get you're frustrated, but I want you to take it back. And fellas, if you guys are listening, I want you to do the same thing. I see you. I see both of you doing everything you can to meet the needs of your family. But also you guys are using each other and completely, what is the damn word that I'm trying to come up with? You guys are positioning each other as the enemy. And you guys are using each other instead of leaning towards each other. You guys are using each other as punching bags instead of walking toward each other and nurturing each other and loving each other. That defensiveness is only because you do not feel safe. And you feel as if you constantly have to defend yourself. But the only reason why you're there is because you are not opening up. You are not sharing. You are not communicating. You are keeping things in. And as you continue to keep things in, that resentment slowly builds and that anger grows. So what I'd like you to do, instead of being on this defensive path, instead what I'd like you to do is I want you to go ahead and take this stance of empathy. How can I relate with my partner? How can I step away from the situation and instead of personalizing everything that my partner's saying, how can I listen to understand? Because what I'm doing is I'm positioning my partner as the enemy and I'm personalizing everything they're saying as a personal attack towards me when that's not happening. I also might need to create boundaries. I also might even go back to why it's important that we're friends, the best of friends. Because if I remember that, if I remember when we first became really good friends, and when we were there and we supported each other, and when we were at this place of just like where we could flirt with one another and where we could just have fun together, and we didn't take each other so seriously. We were able to just have fun. We were able to enjoy each other's company. And now we're in this place where we're just so overwhelmed that we just can't seem to go ahead and connect. And we get into this defensive mode and we argue. We hold all of these things in because we don't want our partner to see us vulnerable because we don't trust it anymore. So right now, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to remember a memory of you and your husband. Think back to a time when you and your partner were the best of friends. The best of friends. You loved, you supported each other. You guys worked at things together. When I think of the times when me and Willie were the best of friends, it's pretty recent because I feel like he and I are truly best of friends. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a perfect relationship. But if I was to close my eyes right now, do it with me unless you're driving or working out. But if I was to close my eyes right now, I would immediately, the first time, like one of the first early on memories when we were first married, it was when we were in a 2-bedroom apartment, no furniture, TV on the floor. That was like literally the only furniture we had. We didn't have a bed. We had comforters. We had maybe 2 or 3 comforters that I stole from home. And we had a blanket, a Mexican blanket, really, really big Mexican blanket that was on the ground. We didn't have a bed. And I remember back then, Willie would take showers, right? So he would take showers, duh. But there was something really fun about these showers. When he would be in the shower, I would go and fill up a pail full of water. It wasn't a pail. I don't think we had a pail. I think it was like a bowl. I would fill up a bowl full of cold water. And I would run to the bathroom, right? I would run to the bathroom, step on the toilet because I'm really short. But I would run to the bathroom, step on the toilet, and I would throw all of that cold ass water onto him. And he would run out of the shower with soap and all, butt ass naked after me. And then we would wrestle. And then we would do other things. But yeah, we would wrestle. And oh my gosh, I'm imagining it happen. He would literally run out of the shower. He's like, oh. And we would just play. And it was just so much fun. So much fun. That's me and my husband being best of friends. And so I want you to think back to a time when you and your husband were best of friends. What did it look like? What did it feel like? What do you remember? Was it a crazy, silly story like mine? Was it even better than mine? Remember a time when it was just both the two of you. No kids. Those were the days. Don't get me wrong. I love and adore my kids, but sometimes, it was just so much fun. And then I think about something recent. And the recent one was on a walk that my husband and I went on with the girls last night. Just he and I talking about our goals, where we see ourselves, the things that are currently happening to us or, with us, some of the troubles, some of the things we're experiencing. Just a really open, nice conversation. He and I getting so caught up in the conversation where we keep on stepping on Scout. Poor Scout. Scout's our dog. But yeah, we've positioned our partner as the enemy. And if you're in a healthy relationship, it's not fair. That's not fair at all. But if you're in an unhealthy relationship, okay, then maybe it's time to go out and seek help. If you feel completely compromised, if there's some level of abuse, that's something different, right? But if you're in a very healthy relationship, I want you to be honest with yourself and your spouse. That is very, very important. It's very, very important. And it's also important for you to hold yourself accountable. And by holding yourself accountable, you might have to kind of switch this light on. Hold up, Veronica. You're starting to view your husband as the enemy. Switch the light on. What's going on? Stop. Listen to understand. You don't have to agree. Just listen and understand. Gain control of your emotions. What is he telling you? Put yourself in his shoes. With all of these things, you will find yourself more and more connected with him. And he in turn will do the same thing. What we don't want is for both of you to forget the value of your marriage. We don't want you to forget that. Because that's usually what ends up happening. Divorced couples have forgotten the value of their marriage. Not all. Don't get me wrong. There are toxic relationships. Let me go over a few key indicators on whether or not you're in a toxic relationship. There might be a great amount of resentment, great amount of dishonesty and disrespect. There might be hiding and secrecy with regards to finances or him stepping out of the marriage. There might be some level of controlling behaviors such as envy or jealousy. And in addition to that, he might be emotionally, mentally, physically abusive with you. That's how we know we're in a toxic relationship. However, if you are in a very healthy, I shouldn't say very healthy because we're all working on being in a very, very healthy relationship. But if you're in a healthy relationship and it's one that you no longer want to go ahead and you don't want to be on this damn hamster wheel anymore. And you want to be in a place where you guys are both no longer roommates. You guys see each other. You guys are ready to do something different. You guys are ready to do the work. You guys are ready to connect. You're ready to connect. And you realize that although it might not be 100% your fault, and it's not, don't get me wrong, it takes two to tango, right? And although it's not 100% your fault, there are areas that you definitely want to work on, but you don't know how. That's where I come in. I'm here to help. And what I'd like to do is I would like to personally invite you to join my workshop. Reconnect with your husband so that you're no longer roommates. If this is true for you, I want you to say yes. Even if you're all by yourself or even if there's somebody next to you, I still want you to say yes. The empty promises just aggravate me so much. He says he will do something or take care of something, then he doesn't. The passion is so low these days that I feel parenthood or other commitments are taking control. I want to feel like it's me he wants to spend time with. Communication has always been a weak point for us. He says things without thinking. I try to logically work through things and he reacts emotionally. I try to say what I feel in a constructive manner. He takes it personally and attacks me. Boundaries are a confusing topic for me because I am a helper. I have this innate need to help anyone I can. If you said yes to at least 2 or more of them, then I want you to join my workshop. Ladies, this is limited seating, so make sure you get on this. You can find the link in our show notes, or you can go to empoweredandunapologetic.com/workshop. Again, that's empoweredandunapologetic.com/workshop. You will have the opportunity to work with me. This will be a live Zoom call. And if you can't go, don't worry about it. It will be recorded and you can watch it at a later time. You, as well as your husband if you'd like, but this is primarily focused on women. See you there. Many women lose their own identity in the shadow of being a mom and a wife. We are a community of women who support each other. We leave perfectionism behind to become empowered and unapologetic. I want to personally invite you to join our Girl Gang. It's a free Facebook community for women just like you. Go to www.facebook.com/groups/empowered and unapologetic. See you there. What's up, ladies? Just want to let you guys know that your ratings and reviews for this podcast are greatly appreciated. If you love this podcast, please go to iTunes right now, write a review, rate the episode, and subscribe. Don't forget to share it with your friends.